To start this meal prepping video out, I never share with you guys my smoothies, but right now I'm going to make my daughter some dairy-free soft serve protein nice cream. So that was a cup of blueberries, a cup of almond milk, 1 frozen banana, and it's very, very thick this way. And so I poured it into a bowl for her and she ate it with a spoon. I didn't wash this out. I went on to the next smoothie. We're doing 1 regular banana, 2 cups of blueberries, and then I'm going to go in with a frozen banana as well. We're going to add about 2 to 3 cups, probably closer to 3 cups of A2 milk and 2 scoops of protein powder. This is going to get divided up again or for the other 4 children, and they are going to have a protein-rich smoothie that they are going to drink with a straw. Then when I'm done making smoothies, I clean my Vitamix with a squirt of soap and some warm water and just turn it on high-speed blend, and it cleans it right up. Next up for their lunch, they are going to have some veggies. So some days we eat a whole lot of produce and some days we don't. On this particular day, they played soccer all morning. We had soccer games. It was Saturday, and they were just super hungry, needed some hydration, needed a bunch of food. So I just got them going with the smoothies. Then they're going to have these veggies with some hummus dip that I picked up at the grocery store. And this is going to tie them over until dinner time. Next, I'm going to start on dinner. And for dinner, we're going to get some rice going. I made some bone broth and poured it in this large half-gallon jar. Most of the time I can my bone broth, and you can find that on my channel. But on this particular day, I just had some leftover broth from the last chicken that I cooked. And so I poured about 4 cups of broth into my Instapot, and then I'm going to do 3 cups of rice. It might have been closer to 4.5, 5 cups of broth in there. This rice is sushi rice. We love using sushi rice as our daily rice that we eat, and I always wash my rice, and I should have washed it in my Instant Pot first, but sometimes when I get going in the kitchen, I don't think things through. So I got another pot out, washed the rice in this pot, and then had a big old mess to get the rice into my Instant Pot. But that's just how it is. I make sure my lid's seal is on, and then I hit the rice function. All right, this is some elk meat. I've got some bacon fat from the bacon I just made in my cast iron skillet, and I'm just gonna saute this up. Look how good that meat looks. It's amazing. Elk meat is one of our favorite meats to eat, so I'm really happy that we have this meat. I feel really blessed. This was given to us by a friend to help supplement our food because we are out of our elk and deer meat now officially. So I'm so grateful for our buddy that gave this to us, and we're gonna cook this up tonight. Lots of good fat, lots of good meat. Meat is a complete food. Believe it or not, as long as you have enough fat in meat, you can live off of meat and fat, and you can survive and thrive off of meat. It's amazing. One thing I want to share with you about elk meat is it has the highest iron content of most all red meats. So it is really excellent if you are experiencing low iron stores. Red meat is going to really help up your iron. There you go. I think that's 2 pounds maybe of ground elk cooked in bacon fat, and it is going to be delicious. I'm going to have this over some rice. What was my lunch later became the kids' dinner. So here I have my bone broth rice with elk meat. We've got our Brussels sprouts with bacon and our cubed sweet potatoes that I saute and steam in some coconut oil in my cast iron skillet. This is my favorite meal ever. Okay, I've rinsed and washed these black lentils, so now I'm just going to be adding a few cups of broth to them. And this is in an amber bottle. It's not really that dark. If you really want to boost your nutrition, try cooking your meals or your lentils, beans, rice. Try cooking those things in broth. It's really going to up the nutritional value of those foods. Here I am using chicken bone broth, and it just really amplifies, adds lots of flavor, and makes it really nutritious. onto our daily loaf of bread. This is 1 2/3 cups of water. Then we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of sugar. We probably make bread 3 to 4 times a week, and that sustains our family and saves us a ton of money. I'm going to go in with 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of Redmond's real salt. You can get that linked down below in my video's description for 10% off. That's what we use for all of our cooking and canning needs. Next, I'm going to go in with about a 1/2 cup of oats. You see right there, I'm adding a 1/4 cup, and I'm like, that's not enough. So I add another 1/4 cup. Usually I measure with my hand, but this time I used a measuring cup. Next, we're going to do 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and then I do 1 cup of whole wheat bread flour. I like the texture, the consistency, and the taste of this bread, even though I can't eat it anymore. But when I was eating bread, this is how I did it. 1/2 flour, 1/2 whole wheat bread flour. And that works really well to make a delicious loaf of bread. You see on the top there, I scooped out a little bit of the flour or made a little indent, and that is where I'm going to add yeast. But I grabbed my tablespoon and dumped the whole tablespoon in there. Whoops, a little bit too much. I make mistakes sometimes, you guys, and so I just tried to take some of that off and put it back into my jar without getting any flour in there. But even if I did a little bit, that's all right. It'll be fine. I go through this yeast pretty quickly. As you can see, I spend my time in the kitchen very wisely. I have been cooking up a storm, so the kids on this night, this is their dinner time now, I am making them their bone broth rice. They're having a choice between lentils or meat or both, and then they can have some sweet potatoes if they want to. Not all the kids like the sweet potatoes, but most of them do. So you see, I served one of the children that doesn't like sweet potatoes. Next up, I'm about to show you some highly neglected sourdough starter. This has been sitting in my fridge for months. Many of you know that I was recently diagnosed with celiac, so I just kind of gave up on the extra effort to make sourdough, especially since my 5th baby was born. You guys know that I have loads of sourdough videos on my channel. I used to make 6 to 8 loaves of sourdough once a week, and I would put that sourdough in my freezer so that I could just go to my freezer and grab out and thaw a loaf of sourdough. Often I pre-sliced it before I froze it, and then I would freeze it, and that way I always had sourdough on hand, and we ate it exclusively. Well, that went on for about 6 years of my motherhood journey, and then when baby number 5 came along, I needed help. So I turned to my bread machine and quick yeasted bread. I killed that sourdough starter that I had for about 6 years, and then I made a new one in this past year. Well, I neglected that. It sat in my refrigerator, and you can see that gray water on top. That is the hooch. So this isn't a bad starter. It is kind of dead, so I am just taking some of it out because I am going to revive it. To revive it, it's going to take quite a few feeds and discards to do that because, like I said, it's been sitting for months in my fridge, covered up. And to revive it, we're just going to have to feed it a bunch. So you're going to see later on in this video, after this first feed, it doesn't have very many bubbles, but as I'm doing this voiceover and editing this video, I am still feeding and discarding, trying to bring it back to life. And it's coming back to life. Every day there's more and more bubbles. So in a few days, it'll be ready to go and bake, and I will share that with you. I'm going to make my kids sourdough, and they're going to be super excited. They were so spoiled on having sourdough exclusively for so many years, but they really do like our fresh daily loaf of bread. It's just going to be a nice little surprise when I bake sourdough, and I think I'm going to teach them how to make it because now that they're homeschooling, I can include them in the kitchen a lot more, and my older children are about the age where they can start learning how to do these tasks and making these things on their own. So I think this is going to be a really fun homeschool experiment or learning lesson with them, and I think they're going to have a lot of fun making their own sourdough. So you can see here I'm adding 75 grams of flour and 75 grams of water. I'm going to give this a good mix. I ended up just using this spoon because I needed to discard some, and I don't like to pour my discard out of my glass jar just because it makes a huge mess. I usually just scoop it out with a spoon, and that's what I did on this day. I do have a dough whisk that I use, and you will see that later on in this video. That is my preferred mixing tool, but an effort to not get multiple tools dirty, this is what we're doing. So I just discarded the discard and threw that in the trash because it was so old, and I'm not going to be using it for anything. It's so old and so sour that I just threw it in the trash, and we're just starting from scratch here. We're going to get this sourdough starter going. If you would like to learn how to make your own sourdough starter, check out my sourdough playlist for everything you need to know to make your sourdough starter. I did make this one with raisin water, fermented raisin water, and I have that all detailed on my channel for you to check out. Okay, here we have some ground turkey burger. We got this from Costco recently, so I'm gonna make up a whole bunch of little miniature turkey sausages or little turkey patties, just little bite-sized ones that I can give to the kids in their dinners, or that they can snack on, or that they can have as a side for their breakfast. So what I'm doing here is adding 2 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. I'm going to do about 4 tablespoons of olive oil and some black pepper. I believe this is probably a little bit more than 2 pounds of meat. It's quite a bit of meat. We're also going to do 2 teaspoons of Redmond's real salt. And once I have all of this in there, I'm going to give it a really good mix. Once I have it mixed up, I do notice that, you know, based on intuition and my ancestors speaking to me, maybe it's God's guidance, I'm going to add some more seasoning to this. So I'm going to add probably a teaspoon of ground sage, and that's going to make these little patties so delicious. So what we're going to do is, you can see underneath of my bowl that I'm mixing up, I have a piece of parchment paper, and that has been a lifesaver with 5 kids. It just makes my cleanup so much easier. So I use parchment paper quite a bit. When I can find the unbleached parchment paper, I use that. So we're just taking our little cookie scoop and scooping out that amount onto the parchment paper, and I can put these close together because they're not going to, you know, rise and expand like cookies are, but I'm spacing them out enough so I can fit as many of these on this pan that I can, but I'm going to mush them down a little bit and indent the middle just so that they cook evenly. So I'm going to show you how I do that in just a minute, but we are going to make a ton of these. I'm just bulk batch cooking them. And my goal is to make a batch of these every week for my daughter, who is intolerant to mammal meats and products at this time. We're still working on her gut to get her healed, and we hope that she can enjoy elk meat and things like that in the near future. But for right now, I need to make sure she's getting plenty of protein. So these turkey balls or turkey sausages, or these little turkey bites is what I'm going to call them, have been a staple in our refrigerator for her. When she gets hungry, she can just grab one out and eat them. I did in the past make some turkey sausages, and I used shredded apple in those, and Sage, she did not like those. So this time I'm not using shredded apple. That was part of one of the diet recipe recommendations that I had gotten from the doctor, so we're not adding apple anymore. All right, while those are cooking in the oven, I'm going to cook up this ground pork sausage. This is early morning. I'm just going to cook up a whole bunch of food for breakfast. So I've got her turkey patties, and the other kids can eat those too, but they're primarily for Hagen. So this is part of her breakfast this morning. And then you can see I have the sausage going back there because we are gonna make a sausage, bread, egg casserole. We're gonna make a breakfast casserole. And let me tell you, this breakfast casserole was a huge hit for my family, so you definitely want to get a piece of paper and write this down. I'm just kidding. There's no measurements. I wing it like I do everything else. So I'm just going to show you what I do. In this bowl, I end up cracking 20 eggs in there, so you can do as many eggs as you want to. I did enough to fill up 2 casserole dishes so I could feed my family on this morning, and so that I could have an extra casserole dish to either pop in the freezer or feed my family later on this week. So we're going to start out with all these eggs, and then we are going to cube up some bread ends that I have left over from our daily loaf of bread. Sometimes we don't get to the whole loaf quick enough. It might sit for 2 or 3 days, and so we turn it into French toast because it gets a little firm. Or we can use it in these breakfast casseroles, which is probably going to be my preferred method from now on. So to those 20 eggs, I'm adding about 2 cups of milk. And if you're making a quiche or a breakfast casserole, the rule of thumb is you do 1 cup of milk per 4 eggs, I believe. But I just used whatever was in the last bit of my bottle of milk and mixing them up. I should have mixed the eggs before I added the milk. That would have been much easier. But don't do as I do as I say. Mix your eggs first, then add the milk, and they'll blend up a lot quicker, a lot easier. So now we're going to cube up this bread, and I'm just cubing it up into little bite-sized pieces. And then there's another bread end back there that we're going to end up cubing as well. And once I get all these cubed up, we are going to mix them into the egg and milk mixture. To that, we're going to add some cheese. I recommend you shred the cheese, but here I am looking everywhere in my kitchen. I'm looking for my cheese grater. I looked and looked. I had the whole family looking. Oh my goodness, you all. So I finally said, forget it. I'm just going to cut this up into the teeniest, tiniest little cubes. And so that's what you see me doing here. I'm slicing it really thin. Then I'm going to flip my slices over and I'm going to cut it again into little tiny pieces, and then I'm going to cut them again the other way, vertically, horizontally. You get the idea, until we get the tiniest little pieces of cheeses that we possibly can. But wait! I'm sure it's somewhere like right in front of my face. Oh, there it is, right in front of my face.
Where was it?
That's right. I put it in a spot I was sure that I would see it when I put it there. It was an excellent idea. It was on top of my wheat mill, or my grain mill. Yep, it was just sitting there in front of my face the whole entire time I was running around the kitchen. So we put all of our cubed cheese into the egg and bread mixture and milk mixture. Then all of the sausage goes in there. That is 1 full pound of sausage. This is a great way to stretch your eggs, to stretch your sausage, and to make a delicious meal for your family. Like I said, this is going to fill 2 casserole dishes. So you're going to be able to feed your family twice with this pound of sausage and these 20 eggs. Well, if you have a family that's my family size, we're feeding 4 kids, and I think Aaron might try this. I'm not sure. I'm definitely not going to eat it. Once we have our casserole dishes out, here I go with the parchment paper again. I don't want to clean this mess, so I put the parchment paper in there, and this is going to make my cleanup so easy. I'm not going to have to scrub cheese off of these dishes. And I know some of you are going to say, just use spray oil or just grease your pans first. That still makes too much of a mess for me. So I'm using the parchment paper, and it's been a time saver, lifesaver, because all I have to do is just rinse them out, wipe them out with a little bit of soapy water, and they are good to go. Or just pop them in the dishwasher. You don't have any hard, crusty cheese or anything on there stuck to the sides at all. And I'm not using the toxic sprays like Pam, that stuff. If you're using that stuff, find something else. Use something else, because that's not healthy for you. It's not good for you. It's just not. Get away from that stuff. All right, we're putting the tiny bit of shredded cheese that I managed to shred up on top, and then these are going in the oven at 350 degrees, a preheated oven, and they're going to cook for 40 to 45 minutes. About at the 30-minute mark, I just draped a piece of foil over the 2 casserole dishes. I just kind of laid it on top so that the top wouldn't get any more done, and let it continue to cook until the middle was completely done. All right, today's breakfast, another huge gigantic bowl, 5 eggs, about a cup of rice, and about a cup of sweet potatoes. Carries me through till dinner time. All right, this is my starter, and it must have been dead. And very few bubbles in there. So I am just going to discard some of this. So right now, oops. Yeah, I'm just going to discard about 1/3 of it, and then I'm going to add back in 75 grams flour and 75 grams of water. Sourdough starter is pretty forgiving as long as you tend to it on a regular basis. it will stay alive and it will thrive. But if you want to hibernate it for a period of time, up to a month is usually my successful amount of time that it revives as soon as I feed it the first time. But this, like I said, this has been in the refrigerator for about 3 months, I would say. And yeah, I killed it, or put it to a deep sleep, I would call it. But yeah, it'll come back to life eventually, I promise. Okay, over here we're just making some roasted vegetables. I'm doing a bit of lemon pepper olive oil on them. So these are the ones that come from Costco. These are the sheet pan. Hi, baby. These are the sheet pan roasted vegetables. So they come already olive oiled and seasoned. But I added some broccoli and green beans, so I'm just seasoning those with the lemon pepper. And I'm going to go ahead and toss a bit of lemon pepper on all of it, especially the green beans, because my kids don't really like green beans. So this is the lemon pepper that I'm using. And I just found out that the real salt, Redmond's real salt, they have a lemon pepper seasoning as well. So because I made a goof and I thought that I had, I definitely thought that I was out of lemon pepper, and I bought some more. But guess what? I thought I was out of lemon pepper, and I had already bought lemon pepper to replace the lemon pepper I was running out of. So now I have 2 brand new bottles of lemon pepper. Isn't that something? So now I can just lemon pepper everything. And lemon pepper is one of our favorite seasonings. And of course, I'm trying to stay off of pepper, but the kids like it, so that's good. Kids enjoy it. And yeah, that's our sheet pan frozen vegetables. I'm going to throw these in the oven at 450 degrees when it's done preheating. And then I'm probably going to serve the kids rice bowls with some leftover lentils, maybe some meat. I don't think we have any meat, so I got out some ground beef to cook up. But we're going to do rice with sheet pan vegetables and leftover lentils in a bowl. So these are the sheet pan vegetables that I do. It's by Tattooed Chef, and I got them at Costco. And hopefully they look as good as the bag. And I need to cook these for 38 to 42 minutes. Oh my goodness, I should have done the air fryer. Ha ha ha, joke's on me. It's gonna be a long night. I like to bulk batch cook my food so that my nights are easier. So tonight we are having rice with these roasted vegetables, leftover lentils from the previous night, and one of the little turkey sausages. Okay, this morning we're making lentil porridge, recommended by somebody on the channel. So we've got our red lentils, our oats, salt, cinnamon to season it. We're also going to put in some diced sweet potato, some sliced banana, some dates to cook all in there. And then we're going to be sweetening it with some maple syrup. So we're also going to add some coconut cream to cook it with and top it with some mango. I'm going to bring to a simmer 3 cups of water and then that 1 can of coconut cream. You can use a can of coconut milk. You can use all coconut milk. But because I have cans of coconut cream right now, and I have an abundance of coconut cream that I ordered from Azure, we're going to do 3 cups of water and 1 can of coconut cream. And that's going to work out perfectly for this recipe that, I mean, this is kind of an experiment for me. I've never made lentil porridge before, but it sounds amazing. It sounds delicious. Then I'm going to wash my lentils. So I've been trying to be really good about washing all of my grains and legumes before I cook them. But here you see, I just nixed that because I didn't wash the oatmeal. So we are going to set that aside and de-pit these dates that I got from Costco. So I'm just pulling out the seeds out of these, and then I'm going to set these aside and get ready all of my other preparations while that milk and water comes to a simmer over there on the burner. I'm going to end up dicing those dates and throwing them in just a bit. On to peeling this sweet potato. So we're going to remove all the peel, and then we're going to dice it up into little cubes. You can do the cubes probably about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch by 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch. And that's going to be just the right size to where they don't get mushy, but they are cooked through completely. At least that is what I have found. And I was a little bit skeptical after I diced it up and threw it in there. I was like, oh, I don't know that those are gonna cook all the way through, but it worked out perfectly. And by the time the lentils and the oatmeal were done cooking, these were soft enough for me to mash up against the side of the pot, and they were cooked all the way through, so it worked out. If you want them to kind of blend in with your porridge a little better, definitely make them a little bit smaller, and then they'll cook quicker and they'll kind of mash up in there, disintegrate a little bit. But the way that I did them, they were easy to mash, but they weren't disintegrating in the cooking process. So I go ahead and I add those first, and then I'm going to add in the oatmeal and the lentils at the same time. And you can see I didn't show you adding everything to the pot, but that's okay. We're going to give that a good mix and add in about a teaspoon of salt to that. Always salt your oatmeal and your porridge. Then I throw in the dates. I chop up the banana and throw that in there, and I'm gonna let all of this stuff just cook and marry together. The dates are gonna disintegrate in there. The bananas, they pretty much disappear, and just added a touch of flavor to this. You can add whatever fruits, or if you want to add raisins. Ooh, I should have added some raisins, but I didn't. But you can just kind of use your imagination and what would be delicious with this type of food. You definitely want to make sure that you sweeten it as well. I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of the Ceylon cinnamon. We love this, and I'm running low because I use it in a lot of breakfast dishes. So once everything is in there marrying, I'm going to give it a little stir. You see that it's starting to thicken up. This was about halfway through the cooking process, and I would say that this cooked for about 20 minutes before it was all the way ready. So I am going to pop a lid on this and just let it simmer for a little bit longer. I want everything to be nice and soft. So then once the cooking is done, I'm adding about 1/4 cup maple syrup, but you definitely want to taste this and decide for yourself. You can add sugar, brown sugar, coconut palm sugar, maple syrup, honey, whatever it is that you want to add to it. This little bit of saltiness and the sweetness makes this dish so tasty. So I'm just serving it up to my kids, putting it in the bowls and letting it cool off for just a few minutes. And I'm also going to sprinkle a little bit of coconut on top. And then we're going to add some mangoes. We got these mangoes from Costco on our recent trip. You can check out that grocery haul. And this is how I do mango. How do you do your mango? How do you get rid of the peel? So I just cut a big old hunk off of the seed. The seed is kind of flat, so you just cut along the seed and remove the mango, and then I dice it crosswise down the inside of the mango, then flip it inside out, and then I slice the mango off. And I could probably have a sharper knife to do this. My little paring knife has gotten dull on me, so I need to give it a good sharpen. The kids really liked this. I told them it was porridge, and they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I don't typically call the oatmeal porridge. Oatmeal is just oatmeal, but this is lentil porridge. Look up some recipes online, because I looked at a whole bunch of recipes and just kind of made it with what I had in my home, and it turned out delicious. My cheat days include sriracha and roasted vegetables with rice and eggs on almond flour tortillas. The kids have been enjoying turkey sandwiches. Some have vegan cheese, some have mustard, but we serve them with some kiwi. Next up, I'm going to make a double batch of sheet pancakes, and I like to double batch things. That way I can have a day off some days for breakfast. We're homeschooling now. Y'all know life has just been hectic, crazy, busy. It's springtime. You know how it is. So we are going to double batch make some sheet pancakes. I have a basic recipe in my YouTube shorts. So if you want to pull that up, you can check out the basic recipe that we like to use, but I kind of just wing it the rest of the time when I make this. So as you can see, I started out with some mashed bananas. I added about 1/2 cup of coconut oil to it. I did a few cups of almond milk. I also threw some vanilla in there, probably a tablespoon of vanilla. And then I'm going to go in with about 4 to 6 eggs. This is all of my wet ingredients. I'm going to give those a good mix. get everything nicely incorporated in there. And then we're going to add in are we going to do 2 cups? Yeah, I think we're going to go in with some more rolled oats. So, well, maybe not 2 cups. I did 1.5 cups of rolled oats, and that felt right to me. Now I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of Redmond's real salt, and then give that all a mix. Next, we're going to go in with some flour. So we're going to start with 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, and I'm going to mix that in there. My recipe, I believe, calls for 4 cups, but I go ahead and add in 6 teaspoons of baking powder. Yep, I'm going to mix all that up, and the reason why I didn't do 4 full cups was because it's going to be a big mess. And so I mixed in the 3 cups, and then I'm going to add in the 4th cup in just a minute. So I'm using my largest glass bowl or my deepest glass bowl for this task. And it gets pretty full. I'm not going to lie there. I tend to overdo things just a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to use 2 large sheet pans for this. Actually, one is like your standard size sheet pan, and then this one is like the biggest sheet pan that they sell at like TJ Maxx or wherever, and I'm not sure the measurements of it, but use what you got, and then if you don't have enough sheet pans, throw the rest in some muffin tins, and you can have some muffins too. So that's what I do. I just make a huge batch of something and then I improvise. Do I need to use muffin tins? Probably not. So we're going to fill up this little sheet pan. I still have some left over in my bowl, and I'm going to fill up the other larger sheet pan. These go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. So just watch them. I give the top a little tap, and if it feels a little jiggly to me still, I cook it a little bit longer, but usually 20 minutes in my oven is plenty of time to cook these sheet pancakes. Then I top them with butter. They're sweet enough for my kids that they don't need any syrup on them. They didn't care for any syrup on this particular day, so I just buttered them up and gave them to them as is. Next up, we're just going to quickly do some fruit. So I try to have, like I said earlier in this video, some days we have a whole lot of produce and some days we don't. But I always have produce on hand, so whether or not I serve a whole bunch of it with a meal is really a moot point because we eat tons of produce and we have smoothies and things like that too. So you'll either see it with every meal or they have it for a snack. I just go ahead and slice up 2 melons for breakfast, and then whatever they don't eat, they're going to have with dinner or they'll have with breakfast the next day. But I go ahead and do 2 melons typically when I do cut up melon. I also have an extra one back there on my windowsill, so we'll eat that on another day. I have an extra honeydew melon. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just chopping this right up and putting it in our vacuum seal containers that will stay in the fridge, and we'll feed the kids that as needed. There we go with some butter. So I'm going to put butter on the first 4 pieces, and then I'm going to get a new knife out, and Hagen's going to have some vegan butter. What I do with any pancakes that the kids don't eat is I let them cool completely, and then I store them either in one of those glass lidded containers and vacuum seal them, or you can put them in a Ziploc bag and pop them into your freezer. We often freeze the leftovers and save them for another day. That's why I cook a whole lot of sheet pancakes. Usually, though, they're gone because the kids will snack on them for the whole rest of the day out of a plastic bag in our deli drawer. That's where I keep them usually. And if they don't eat through most of it, then I pop them in the freezer. So they will have these sheet pancakes both on this day and the following day. They're going to have some sheet pancakes as well. So I'm going to cook up a whole bunch of, this is turkey bacon. So I'm making Hagen's turkey bacon first. And if you guys have been around here long enough, you know, I cook things in large quantities so that it's already cooked and ready to go. I'm not making a whole bunch of small meals for my family. I am batch cooking things. That way, she's got all this turkey bacon in the fridge, and then I put some of it in the freezer for her. So as she uses up what's in the fridge, we grab out the rest of the cooked turkey bacon from the freezer, and then she has that. And then I'm going to cook up a whole bunch of bacon for the rest of the family, and we're going to do pork bacon for the rest of us. Turkey bacon is about double the cost of pork bacon, so yeah, we're kind of stingy, and we just let Hagen Bacon, is what we call her. Hagen Bacon gets all the turkey bacon because she can't have any mammal products. So that works out really well for my family. If you are struggling with meals and you just go, oh my goodness, I'm having to cook like a meal 3 times a day and offer variety, well, just do what I do, and every day I just cook up a whole bunch of something, and then we're able to eat on it for a few days. So a lot of our meals look redundant. A lot of the food that I cook in large batches, and then all I have to do is take it out and reheat it for my family, and we have a variety of rice bowls lately. I mean, you've seen it all in this video. This is kind of how we've been eating for the last week, and it works really well for me just to cook a bunch at once and set it aside, and then it's still the same amount of work. Let's be honest here. I'm still doing the same amount of work, but it allows us to have a variety of foods already cooked in a large quantity that we can just divvy up, and then the picky eaters are happy because they've always got what they want, and then the people that are garbage disposals, we've got what we want, you know? And I also cooked up this pork bacon. Yummy. I do it the same way. So we do 400 degrees in the oven, 10 minutes each side, and that makes a perfect amount of bacon. And then I use this on the Brussels sprouts. We use these on sandwiches. We use them just to eat a piece of bacon when we want to. And who doesn't love having lots of bacon in stock in their home? Me, I do. I love it. I love bacon. We also, you can see our rakes out there in the wagon. We picked up every single pine cone in the front yard and in the backyard, and we've got our burn piles going. So that's what we did today. It's time for another loaf of bread. This is our daily loaf of bread, and I'm just gonna play a little music for you. We've got more meals coming after this little interlude, so stay tuned, click the subscribe button, and hang out with me longer for your meal prep inspiration. And boom. Don't mind the dip. I didn't measure correctly, but if you measure correctly and you use my recipe down in the description correctly, you're gonna make delicious bread. It's still I am on a roll with breakfast in this video. You know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So right there you saw that I added some water to these eggs. I probably have about 10 to 12 eggs in there, and I'm just going to scramble them up in my cast iron skillet. You can see my cast iron skillet is really well seasoned. It's working beautifully lately. My eggs aren't sticking at all. I love this cast iron skillet. I use it every day, multiple times a day. It is my favorite. It used to be my mother's, but this cast iron skillet has been through it, y'all, and it has a lot of buildup on the underside. So my plan very soon is to take you guys on a journey to restore this antique cast iron skillet. I'm also going to be restoring my late mother-in-law's cast iron skillet that she gave me many, many years ago. It has a bunch of rust on it, so I hope you guys click the subscribe button and stick around for that. And I know many of you have said, hey, show us how you season your cast iron skillet, show us that process, and I'm gonna do all of that, but I wanna show you how to strip a cast iron skillet down to its bare iron and show you that whole process. So maybe you can find an antique cast iron skillet, or maybe you have a skillet that needs to be restored, and I'm gonna show you how to do it here on my channel. I'm really excited about it. It's a process, so we're gonna do it together. On this morning, the kids are having leftover sheet pancakes with a bit of butter on top, and then they're also having some scrambled eggs. We also have the honeydew and cantaloupe that we made, and that is something they can have if they're still hungry after eating this. So I'm just getting everybody's plates prepped, and yes, I'm that mother that serves my family. I serve them their plates. They're sitting patiently at the table, and it brings me a lot of joy to prepare their meals, set up their plates. But we're starting to get to a day and age where my kids are getting old enough that they can start serving them. Well, my older kids are old enough to do that. So we're starting to have more meals Italian style at the table. All right, this morning I'm having eggs with some ham that I sliced up, chopped up, all that good stuff. This is 5 eggs and 2 pieces of ham, and I'm probably still gonna be hungry after that, so I'll eat a banana or some oranges. The kids had their sheet pancakes, and I'm also having a cup of coffee. And in my coffee, I do a splash of maple syrup. Now this is maple syrup that we put in a, that's a little more than a splash. Just a splash of maple syrup in there. This is not the maple syrup that's in here. We're just reusing this container. We have a bulk thing of maple syrup and we refill this. Just makes life easier to pour it out of there. All right, today we're gonna cook up this whole chicken that I got from a local farm, and I am gonna put it on this rack. So I'm gonna put about a cup of water or so in the bottom of that. That's just so that nothing burns. And then we're gonna place the whole chicken on the rack, and then I'm gonna close it up and just let it cook. And I'm just gonna cook it without any seasoning. Well, maybe I'll do a little poultry seasoning, we'll see. As always, I use the broth from the chicken to make a delicious creamy rice. I use sushi rice and it really turns out absolutely delicious. I cook 3 cups of rice in about 3 cups of broth and then another 2 cups of water and hit the rice function on the Instapot. That's how it turns out. I still have this chicken to deal with, so I'm going to try to get this deboned real quick, get all the meat off of it, and then get the carcass in my second Instapot insert. That way we can have some bone broth cook while we're at soccer practice. So there's the chicken neck and some of the bones that I've already gotten the meat off of and fed the children with. They just had straight up meat and they've had some fruit also. And that's been dinner so far because it's soccer night. And I'm terrible about making well-balanced meals for my family, but I just want you to know, don't feel bad if you don't make well-balanced meals, as long as you're getting your kid the proper nutrition throughout the day, whether it's eating fruit or vegetables any time of day. You're doing a great job, so don't stress too much about that. Okay, so I'm deboning this chicken. I'm just pulling off as much meat as I can, and all the hard chewy bits or all the slimy bits, those are gonna go back into the pot and be turned into bone broth. So these are the oysters of the chicken right here. These are like the most tastiest bits right here, these little things. But I'm just putting all my meat over here in a bowl, and I just keep on removing whatever I can from the carcass.
I am so amazed by all you have done. I cannot explain the depth of your love. Limits can't contain the heart of you, God. I'm amazed at the depth of your love. Your mercy came and found me. Second birth, I'm overwhelmed and grateful. You took what I deserve. I am so amazed by all you have done. I cannot explain the depth of your love. Limits can't contain the heart of you, God. I'm amazed at the depth of your love. And I am so amazed by all you have done. I cannot explain the depth of your love. Limits can't contain the heart of you, God. I'm amazed at the depth of your love. Hallelujah. Love has made a way. Hallelujah. Forever I give thanks. Hallelujah. Love has made a way. Hallelujah. Yeah, forever I give thanks. Oh, and I am so amazed by all you have done. I cannot explain the depth of your love. Limits can't contain the heart of you, God. I'm amazed at the depth of your love. Oh, and
Okay, so this is the meat that I have after I fed my kids dinner tonight. And then this is the bone broth, and we're gonna add a splash of apple cider vinegar into that to help break it all down. About a tablespoon or so in there. And I'm gonna let this pressure cook. And after this pressure cooks, it's going to sit here and slow cook until we return from soccer practice. You can try one, Torsten,
Mom,
okay?
I see some egg yolk.
All right, so we're gonna scramble up these eggs. We're also gonna have some sweet potatoes, and then we chopped up a whole melon, and that's gonna be our breakfast this morning. Eggs and fruit and sweet potatoes. How's breakfast?
Good.
Even was cut melon.
Thumbs up. Can you give us a thumbs up?
I'm in the stuff.
Say hi, YouTube.
Hi, Oatmeal.
Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Hello, Carol.
Busy day today. I've had doctor's appointments. I have to go back and get an ultrasound done on my throat, of my neck. But this is what I'm having today. It is eggs, rice, and sweet potatoes rolled up in an almond flour tortilla. It is delicious. All right, this is my lunch today. Cheat meal. It's cheat meal because that has mayonnaise in it, seed oils, poppy seed dressing. I'm gonna see how this affects me, but I love kale salads. I haven't had one in a really long time. I topped it with blueberries, cranberries, seeds, some more seeds, oh no, and the chicken salad that my husband made with the whole chicken that I cooked up the other day. So that's another way that we're using chicken. All the kids had chicken salad sandwiches, and they just ate their lunch, but there was some left over, and I said, oh, I'm gonna eat that on a salad. All right, this is my soccer mom outfit, going to all the kids' soccer games. Braided my hair when it was wet, so it's nice and curly, and then I will back up so you can see. Zero shoes. Ready to go.